Man, how you been?
I've been good. How about you?
I've been great.
What are you doing now? I mean, other than podcasting, and what's going on with you?
Well, I just started back podcasting this year. I took a bit of a break last year, with things kind of getting crazy. Uh, I fi- I figured I'd just kind of lay back and let things play out. But I'm back at it, trying to do this much better because I know last time we recorded it was I listened back to it and the audio was kind of all mangled,
Right.
and just getting back into the progress of podcasting, I looked at some of the tips where I first started, and one of the main things they said is that um, make sure you're not distracted. And as as I'm sitting there trying to drive at the same time while having a call on Zoom and just everything, I was like, yeah, he's trying to do one too many things at a time. So
Right.
that's gonna throw things off. But I'm glad we were able to reschedule
Yeah.
and just see where we're at now, see
Are,
how things are going with you.
are you doing engineering stuff right now as well? I mean,
No, I haven't done any engineering within the last year. The last thing I did, um, what I did last year from January till about May, I worked with FEMA.
mhm,
And I guess in a way that's kind of engineering. I was supposed to be working as a site inspector out in Puerto Rico. So we got there late January and kind of got assigned to different parts of the island, figuring out what teams we'd be working with. And then our teams got split up with more in the work that came in. I think before I got there, they had a couple of earthquakes. And then while I was there, they had some more earthquakes. So um, they had to separate and divvy out manpower. And before we knew it, uh, the whole virus and things was spreading out worldwide. So by second week of March, everything was shutting down. So everybody got sent home, work remotely, or as
right.
long as we could, doing catch up work and administrative work, different things like that. And then they had to shut it down, I think, altogether until we figured out what was going on. And I opted not to go back. A couple of the people that did, I think I caught up with them recently, and they said um, some things worked for a little bit, but then they had other issues they needed to deal with.
Right. Well, it's definitely been a crazy year, man. I mean, you couldn't have wrote a science fiction book to be any crazier than what it's been the
Right.
last year.
I mean, how are things for you? I know last time we spoke, you just introduced me to the company that you started and what you guys created. Do you mind kind of going back into that and just
Yeah.
elaborate on what's happened since then?
So, the company started in 2018, like July. That's when I was still working for CBI. Started kicking ideas around about what I wanted to do, and it's just such a long process for the patents, for research and development. Creating the first prototypes and continuing to work that out. And so, we went into 2019 and I, went on full time with the company. I think like around April of 2019. And at that point, we're still working on patents. We're still doing a lot of research and development, doing a lot of market search, how many products we can sell, where's the market's at, what jobs are booming, all these things that go into trying to get your company ready to to basically launch products and have a forecast. So in November of 2019, November, December, we received our first shipment of lead locks in, and unloaded them, got them ready. At that time, we went into kind of the holiday season. Come out of 2019 into 2020, had some really good hits for the products. Some very large sales that we were getting ready to make. One was actually at Vogel at 3 and 4. They were looking at basically putting our products across the site wide.
Right.
By the time everything kind of got filled in and all the stuff was ready, they were ready to issue PO, and COVID hits along with some other stuff. So we could not have timed a launch of products and a launch of a startup company any worse in the last 25 to 30 years of the country's history. And so it's been really challenging to obviously move product in a time when this virus has got work down, people's not working. A lot of jobs in the construction industry have been pushed back, hoping that the vaccines would be the answer. A lot of work across the United States, or really North America, they pushed back from the spring to the fall, and now the fall to the spring, and it's just stacking up. So when the workload breaks loose, it's going to be epic. I mean, it's going to be anybody that wants a job in the construction industry, I think is going to be able to have that job. They're going to be so short staffed, it's not even going to be funny with all the work that's going to cut loose. But the one thing that I will tell you though, Asher, is that through the clouds there's kind of a shining point. I believe that if COVID, for us as a little company, nobody knows us, we dealing safety devices, construction, all kinds of huge companies that are in the $1 billion range. The one thing that COVID did for us was that it put a lot of these CEOs, vice presidents, and decision makers at home in front of their computers, whereas they would have been out on the job site in board meetings, obviously not having time for people of our my caliber of a company.
Mm-hmm.
And so since that they were at home, they were not in these meetings, they were not on the job sites, they were not doing what they normally do. It gave me an avenue to contact them or contact people in their network that sent them my way. And so basically, I would have never been able to get in touch with the CEO or the vice president of this $30 billion company. But due to him working remotely from home and having the opportunities to look at new products, new pitches that would help their company, it really helped us as a company in 2020 be able to get the connections that we needed to make this a North American wide product, and then also go globally with these products. So, always prayers answered, and you got to look for the good things, whenever you're kind of looking at all the bad stuff. Looking at that, 2020 really helped us get to the people that we needed to be that we needed to be in touch with. We would have never been in those people's wheelhouse without them being at home and being kind of more in front of their computer screen.
Yeah, that's a great point. I mean, that's it's good to be able to have pulled something from 2020, because I know a lot of people just kind of looked at it as a wash, and I know I looked at a good part of it for myself as a wash. But just thinking back, and I see you've got the LEADLOCK there on your wall. That looks really nice. Can you, I guess, talk me again through how did you come up with the idea, or what drove you to make the LEADLOCK?
So all of our products, starting with LEADLOCK and machine lock, they all have to do with industrial safety. And as well as anybody, in this country, that safety obviously is number one, then quality, then production. So, taking those three things into consideration, when we were in the field together, or when we were welding, the biggest thing that we come into every day, it seemed like, when you had a night shift and a day shift, or you had other crafts working with you, or you had different companies working side by side, we would set our stuff up in the afternoons or in the mornings. You'd go to lunch.
Yeah.
You would come back the next morning, and your stuff was gone. It was unplugged from the machine. It was strung somewhere else, and we were spending 1-2 hours a day rerouting welding leads every day. And so, looking from a safety standpoint, instead of us going straight to work, turning and burning rod, making production, getting the job done, these guys were all over the place in scaffold areas, crawling through holes, trying to rerun welding leads. And it was actually putting them in harm's way, because instead of being in their work area where they assess the hazards, they're over, in this other part of the job site that they could get injured, slips, trips, and falls. They didn't know what was around them. You were putting them in harm's way an hour to 2 hours a day that they didn't need to be in. And so we invented LEADLOCK and machine lock for these guys to be able to lock their welding leads to the machines all the way down the line into the stinger, so that that specific welder has his lead, his machine, and without having his combination, you can't really use his welding lead, and therefore reduces the safety risk of these guys, not tying off while they're going down the ladder to restring their welding machine, arcing out on material or scaffolds, tripping over stuff, cutting herself. It all went back to, if you can send those guys straight to work and they're not crawling all over the job site doing stuff that they shouldn't be doing, that that this stuff should be in their in its place every day, then we reduce the injury rate on the work site. And that's what really drove the invention of the product, along with these companies were losing large amounts of money. When the welders aren't welding, they're not making money. So that was the second thing to back it up that brought this on, and why we invented these products.
And if I remember right, you said they're losing in the millions just for having guys, like, say you have a crew of 4 or 5 welders running around for 2 to 3 hours a day, if not more, just to chase down welding leads and air hoses and other things like that.
Well, I'll give you this, and this is something that that any company could take and use this. You can take 10 welders, 50, 100, doesn't matter what it is. These guys, you take your hour a day that they're working. So say that that they're working 6 tens, whatever it may be.
Yeah.
They're losing an hour. The statistics is actually 1.6 hours a day. So you take your welders, the 1.6 hours a day, the rate in which you're paying those welders, and you can come up with a really close number of what you're losing per day for these guys walking around trying to redo their welding leads. And that's only in time lost, Asher. If you go to how many times do they arc out on scaffolding or tank bottoms or something that you have to go back and do rework, NDE work, all that keeps piling up money that with these products that we invented, if you incorporate them and treat them as a safety device, just like a pair of safety glasses or a guard on a grinder, they're kept in place, they're not removed, then that number drops tremendously on how much time these guys are wasting not welding and also rework.
That's a good point. The especially with a site like Plant Vogel being a nuclear construction site, you're talking about having so many procedures and so many more people being involved in repair processes. Like something that might take 10 minutes or less than an hour may take a day to 3 days, depending on who's available, how bad the damage is, what material it's on, all that type of thing.
Absolutely. And playing to your question there, or actually to your statement, when you think about the welders being in danger, okay, we say we arc out on something,
Mhm.
then you pull in the foreman that has to come look at it. You pull in the NDE guys that have to come do the NDE work. You pull in, any of your QCs or whatever that has to come document that work. So not only did we just put our welder in, in harm's way, from arc outs if they get burnt or whatever, if you have a failure of some type of structure, but you're also bringing in a foreman, an NDE guy, a QC guy. You're introducing them in the work area because they have to review something that was messed up. And if you use these products and eliminate that hazard, then you've just get 4 people out of potentially new hazards that they shouldn't have to be there, shouldn't have to deal with.
Right, right.
That's been the key ingredient in all of our products that we've come out with, is that the industry had basically been stagnant on that part of inventing. Welding lead connections have not changed really very much, maybe other than visually, in 30, 40, 50 years. You plug them together, twist it, and that's it. They can come apart. There's nothing to keep them from doing that. And so that's what LEADLOCK does. We have a new product that's coming out called the AO connector, and it is actually a complete redesign of welding connectors.
Okay.
Cells, and without being able to pull a switch back with your thumb, they will not come unlocked. So if you're going vertical, if you're dragging them, no more coming untwisted, falling, arcing out. We've really got the new age connectors to the industry, and those will be coming out probably second or third quarter of 2021.
Man, that's great to hear. It to your point about technology not in evolving as much in the construction industry. I remember a corporate executive came to talk to us, the field engineers on the job, a while back, and one of the things he mentioned was just that where you see technology improving drastically when it comes to cell phones, it comes to cars, different things like that. You have cars that are partially self-driving, you have electric cars, you have different bells and whistles, but also just like the performance of the equipment that people interact with every day is improving. So to see you and your team come up with new tools that can improve the construction industry from where it's at and just take it who knows how far more into the future by saving time, saving lives, just keeping people out of harm's way is something to just great to be able to look back and just think, hey, 3 years ago or just a year ago, we didn't have this. And man, what a difference it would have made.
Absolutely.
I'd like to know, or if you would share with us, how is it that you got into the construction industry?
So, to give you a little rundown on me, I've got a pretty bounce off the wall type deal. I went to Middle Tennessee State University in Murfreesboro, Tennessee, and I have a bachelor's degree in animal science, and a secondary or a minor in secondary education. So I actually taught high school agriculture for about 5 years, and got out of it and decided that I wanted to go back to school, and went back to the University of Tennessee for a little while, and then got out, went out to Billings, Montana into the feedlots because I have a background in beef cattle nutrition and reproduction. And I think it was negative 40, 45 in Billings.
Yeah.
And I come back to Tennessee, and at that point I was like, don't know what I want to do. You know, I knew that I wanted to work with my hands. I wanted to, you know, be able to be outside. And my brother-in-law actually said, hey, you know, the Boilermakers are hiring CBI services. They're building a nuclear plant in Augusta, Georgia. Would you be interested? And I was like, I don't know. I don't think I really want to travel. He said, well, you probably make $80,000 this year. I said, well, okay, when do I start? And so, you know, I got on CBI services, you know, come down to Georgia, got training, which I had a lot of farm background, stuff like that. So a lot of that fits, and the work ethic fits. And so got into construction, the Boilermakers, you know, worked at Vogel for 4 or 5 years. And from the time that I come into the trades, it wasn't like that I had, you know, come through and had been in it 10, 15, 20 years where, you know, it was just what you did. So when I come in looking from the outside in, I was like, man, there's so many things that we could improve on. You know, this connection has not been improved in years. Here's these 480 connections that run 3-phase electricity that anybody can come up and unscrew and potentially be electrocuted. You know, there was no way to keep people out of this. Nothing that I've seen in the industry locked the stuff that we were using, not only from a production standpoint, but from a safety standpoint.
Right.
Anybody could walk up, and you know this as well as I do, you could walk up to anything and undo it.
Right.
The only thing keeping you from doing that is, well, common sense. I hate to tell everybody, but we're kind of missing a lot of that in today's age. So, you know, our products attack that as much as anything, is that you're not just leaning on somebody not to know better. You're actually putting a physical part in between them and the hazard. So instead of training and possibly gloves, PPE, which is down obviously at the bottom of the pyramid, we took a quantum leap up to eliminating the hazard.
Right.
It's not there anymore.
Right.
So
you engineered it out.
As far as your hazard chart, you went from the bottom of the totem pole on the least effective to the top, where these guys, they're not having to deal with it. It's not there anymore. And that's what has been a success for us, and continuing to invent new products with that mindset has just been a major part of our company.
That's awesome. I guess with things getting ready to pick back up, with hopefully new jobs being signed, contracts and things like that, people getting back to work, your growth is probably just going to balloon. I'm guessing would you see yourself going back to construction?
Talking about me personally?
Yes.
As far as, I mean, as long as our company continues to grow, you know, I will continue to run the company. I mean, right now, the way that we're set up, you know, I'm doing sales calls, you know, meetings with distributors. We're doing planning with our manufacturers, you know, trying to do projections, numbers, you know, constantly dealing with shipping price changes, you know, what's going on in this economy. And we're also looking at taking these products globally. So as far as me actually going back into construction in the field, you know, unless something happens to the company, I don't foresee that. It'll continue just to stair step, and I'll, you know, obviously in day-to-day run.
Yeah.
Not that I don't miss that. I mean, I a lot of times I miss, you know, going in and actually doing the things that we did in the construction industry, and all the guys that we work with, I still talk to, you know, on a weekly basis, some, you know, a couple times a year, but there's still that tight bond. And I feel it, you know, too, in a company, and I feel that's why a lot of these other companies hadn't expanded on their product line. If you don't stay in touch with what you're doing, or,
Mhm.
we're in the construction industry, we're building products for the construction industry. If you don't keep a close tie to that, then your company starts going downhill. If
Right.
you just say, okay, I'm going to let this person do this on what they think, and they've never been in the industry, or they're not talking to the guys that are actually welding and boots on the ground, your company is going to fold up and start going backwards. So just like anything else, it's super important for us to keep our ears open, listen to these guys, what they need, what they would like to see, what's going on in their lives, what would make their lives easier, safer, more productive. And that's kind of where we want to stay as a company.
That's great. And I think you're you're actually more effective in that role to being able to not just help the guys that you've come to know in the construction business, but also the people that you may never meet, and just being able to improve their lives and, I guess, help them finish jobs quicker, help them get back to their families. Because I know a lot of times when you're on the road doing these jobs, you spend so much time away from your families. And it's just one thing that always impressed me about you and a lot of the guys wasn't just the time you put into what you were doing, but I guess the character in which you carried yourself, just what your the same thing you talked about from the farming, just the attitude that you carried in doing your work. Where I think I remember you telling me about um, growing up and going out and farming with your dad, and kind of asking, it's like, why is it that you have to do that? And I guess if I remember right, his response was that, well, even during Christmas or during the holidays, like, the cows don't know it's Christmas, and if we're not out here to take care of them, they'll die. So I think carrying that same approach and that same mentality into your work through college, animal science degree, going and becoming a boilermaker, and just taking that perspective, like, I need to do this in order to keep the wheels turning. And then now being able to see that you identified a problem and you work towards um, solving it. I think that's a great thing that you've been able to do.
I've been very blessed to grow up the way that I did. I grew up with two amazing parents. I grew up in a farm background, and I'll tell you what the farm background did for me, Asher. Typically, especially farms that here in East Tennessee, and a lot of farms across the country, you don't have unlimited money. You don't have the ability to go out and buy new equipment, or buy this that you need. So a lot of times you have to be inventive as a farmer to figure out how you can use what you got to do what you need to do. And I feel like that a lot of my being able to look at things and being able to uh, get an idea of what I can do to make it better come from that life. The second part that you hit on, you're right. It was Christmas. It was Christmas Eve. I was about 7, 8 years old. We were feeding cows. It was starting to get late. All I'm thinking about is Santa coming. Got to get home. And I asked Dad, why are we out here doing this? And he told me basically, the cows don't know it's Christmas. If we don't feed them, then they don't get fed. There it is. It's your job as their caretaker to make sure that they have what they need before you do what you need. And so taking that to a human perspective, that's kind of the way I felt the whole time in any role that I've ever had is, I want the people that I'm working with to be able to depend on me, to be able to have what they need from me to the best of my ability. And the work ethic that comes along with being a farm kid is second to none. I wish everybody could experience, that that drive to be able to feed your family, to be able to keep up with with the animals. There's very few ethics and just hard work that I find that can compare to being raised on a farm. And I really had, put that to what has put me in the position that I'm in, care for others, to be able to invent things, to be able to give the effort and the hard work to push you where you want to be. And you see all these quotes about effort and attitude and all this stuff. All that is great, and I'm sure that there's people that have made fortunes by themselves, strictly by themselves, never had any help. But in my case, the people that I surrounded myself with and the people that I cared for and tried to be treated the way that I wanted to be treated is really what's made this company. Without having those people pushing the products and talking about them on job sites, I'm not on these job sites with these guys, and they're talking about the products and how they make them better, and that's nothing that I'm paying them for, or nothing that I'm saying, hey, will you go do this? It's just their thoughts and the way that they like the products, and kind of their bond with me as just a person. So if it hadn't been for the people that I work with every day that's on the Alpha Omega team, if it hadn't been for the people that I worked with in the welding community, we wouldn't be sitting here today. It's all about connections and people and working together. I mean, I've said it a million times. I'm not a smart person at all. I just have surrounded myself with people that know what they're doing, that can help, and I just have that get up and go attitude that kind of pushes things along.
Right. That's great. And one thing that I just thought about when you mentioned the quotes and things like that, and being able to work hard and be relied upon. And I think you maybe already answered this in your last statement, but how do you, let me see. I'm struggling to get the words together, but essentially I'm trying to ask, how do you balance taking care of people and making sure that you're taking care of yourself to where you're able to take care of those people that depend upon you?
So I feel, I know this sounds crazy, but I feel like that I've been gifted with the ability to turn things off. I really enjoy the outdoors. I enjoy, being hunting, fishing, just outdoors. So when I basically come to the point to where I'm ready to turn off the company or turn off business in general, I turn it off. And I know a lot of people have a hard time doing that, but I feel like to be able to put max effort into something, you've got to be able to have that rest period, or I do, because if I didn't, say that I didn't, go, do my outdoor stuff and be able to turn it off and laugh and have fun with my kids, and I just constantly kept going, you eventually burn out, and you eventually start, going backwards, or you're just basically a body in front of a screen, or you're not getting the output that you need. So I feel like that you have to, rest your mind. You have to enjoy other things, that way that when you come back to your business or to whatever you're doing, that you can throw max effort at it, instead of just mediocre, I'm here, my body's here, but I'm not really doing anything. And that's just not the way that I really operate. When I come in, I want to throw everything that I got at it, go as hard as I can, and then when I'm ready to shut down, I'll shut down, recharge the batteries, and then go again.
That's a great point.
Well, I mean, and that's the way that I feel like that that the company, it helps the company, it helps the people that I'm working with, and And because, once you get yourself to a point where you need to stop and take a rest and you don't, that's when you start messing up. You start getting snappy with your peers, or the people you're working with, or you start getting mad, and things just start to not gel. It's very important to me to have those breaks, and it might just be an hour or two. You might
Mhm.
do something in the morning, come back, hit it hard. You might do something evening, and I juggle that too with my kids. I've always said I'll give up everything that I have, everything that I've ever worked for my kids to be able to spend time with me. And I feel like that was really pushed at me when I was gone so long in Georgia. I missed 5 years of their lives. I would come home on Friday night at midnight, and I would leave Sunday at 3 o'clock and drive the 6 hours, 5 hours back down. And I did that for 5 years. And so Sunday night through Friday, I was gone out of their lives.
Yeah.
And I swore that I would never do that again. I don't care what happens. I
Yeah.
miss so much value of their lives that nothing's worth that to me.
That's a great point. I definitely empathize with empathize or sympathize with you to that point, because I know for myself, definitely having that activity, or like that group of people that you you either have while you're going through that hard work, or and also having a group of people and activities that you can do outside of that work really goes a long way to balance, because um, otherwise it's like you can easily drive yourself crazy and just um, is not to say like you're not all there, but I guess it's just when you start snapping at people and things like that, it's kind of your body responding and trying to tell you like, hey, like you need to stop doing what you're doing. We're on empty here. Like we're
Well, I mean, if it hadn't been for the guys that we worked with when we were in Georgia, I would have been gone a long time ago. I mean, people like Steve Crumpton, just a great mentor. People like Steve Rominger, those guys are the ones that made it. They're the ones that you got out of bed and come to work because they depended upon we depended upon each other. We were a good working machine. And that's a big thing too. If you don't have those style of people in your life, like I said earlier, that you can play off each other's strengths and weaknesses. I mean, that's the game to be played.
right,
People can master everything.
right, right,
You're good at what you're good at, and the trick is to grab up people and surround yourself with your weaknesses. And to do that, you got to be able to admit that you have weaknesses. And I feel like there's a lot of people that struggle, or that could become so much more if they would drop that pride and drop that, whatever you want to call it.
mm-hmm.
Admit that you're not great at everything, and surround yourself with people that can pick up your slack. And that's where you really start to shine and succeed.
Man, that's awesome. Oof.
Easier said than done.
Yeah, but I mean, it's just even being able to have this conversation. It's great, because I know, like for me, it's been kind of a struggle back and forth, because it's good when you get started on the journey of especially if you want to talk about like the mental work, because when you do something physical or something you can see, it's much easier to deal with, it's easy to measure. But when you have to kind of like go inside your head, or be able to admit to another person, or be able to open up to another person and be vulnerable for a minute to say, okay, I'm not good at this, I need help. And it doesn't make you less of a person for being for doing that. It actually helps. It actually allows other people to embrace you and to say, oh, okay, like you're somebody I can work with. Like, so long as you're working with people that you like and that like you back, people are always willing to lend a helping hand. And I know for me, at least, it gets way too easy to try and figure things out on your own if you just think that like you have to figure it out, otherwise it's not going to work out. But thankfully today it's like you have multi-talented people and you get more done working with somebody else rather than just trying to get to wherever you're getting to on your own, and then when you're there you kind of look back and wish you would have brought somebody along with you.
Right. That's and that's the only way that that I have been able to do what I've done, and the company's been able to do what it has done. I from the very first meetings with the people that I work with, I said I like to invent things. I like to, sell to people. I like to talk to people. I like to push the products. I like to be able to talk about the construction industry and what we had going for us and our downfalls and where we can make it better. That's my strengths.
Mhm.
I'm horrible as at emailing people, taxes, proofreading stuff, marketing material. I'm horrible. I hate it. I would rather just beat my head in the wall than have to sit in front of a computer and do those things. And so the people that I work with, I have people that's their thing. They like that. They're good at it. They pick up on stuff, and it allows me to do what I'm good at. Because
Right.
I could sit here for 2 weeks and look at something proofreading and trying to do graphics, and it would suck. Doesn't matter how much time I spend on it, it's going to suck because my heart's not in it.
Right.
They take over, they do that, it looks good. Same thing for them. They've not been in the construction industry, boots on the ground, dealing with that stuff. So put me in front of the guys that we're actually talking to that are using these products, the shipyards, the petrochemicals, the oil industry, all these people that are using nuclear, that are using these products. That's where I shine. I'm the face of the company and the people person, whereas they're doing a lot of the stuff behind the scenes that's really probably more important than what I'm doing. But that's just the way that we work and playing to each other's strengths. And
Right.
if I had not have done that, if I would have said, I can do all this on my own or whatever, I would have failed a long, long time ago. We wouldn't be having this conversation at all.
What
And
was
that's the same way that it played at the nuclear unit in Vogel. I can't weld very good. Not at all.
I can't either.
I'm not great at doing a lot of the stuff that Dan Taylor and White Neal and all those guys are perfectionists at. Where I come in and I actually had a job and it was the paperwork. I could navigate the books, keep the paperwork, and have semi-positive attitude on those days and work with people like that. So if we hadn't had that bond there, it wouldn't have worked. It wouldn't have worked either. I mean, so
Right.
It's just getting that that gel of having the right people, no matter what you're doing around you, is what makes you successful. I don't care how smart Elon is. I don't care how smart Bezos is. They can't do it all. They have to. I mean, Elon's probably the smartest man that's walking around right now, but he still put people around him. I'm sure. I mean, maybe he can do it. I don't know, but he put people that knows what they're doing and made him successful.
Exactly.
Well, that's the way I feel. That's my opinion.
That's a great point. And I guess what would you say to someone that's kind of just they're not sure which direction to go. They kind of just feel defeated, especially with the last year, and they're just kind of at their wits' end, just trying to make it through the day.
For me, I've been there a bunch. I mean, this year, I mean, compare myself to other people, I've been there a lot. There's been a lot of days that I've just thrown my hands up and said, we just lost a $500,000 sale. COVID knocked us out of this sale. I'm done. I'm done. That could have changed the trajectory of the company from this to this.
Mm-hmm.
And it goes back to people. I feel like that the days that I was down, and still, I mean, even to this day, the days that I just throw my hands in my hat and I'm like, screw it. Is it worth it? Is it worth it? Are we ever going to be able to do this? Is it going to take off? This is horrible. I feel like that the people that I work with was like, hey, calm down, take a breath. We've done more in a year and a half than a lot of people's done in 5 years with the companies. We're having small steps of success in one of the worst economic times in history. Breathe, get your thoughts together, get a plan, and go at it again. And that's what I would say to anybody that's at their wit's end. Take a minute, step back, breathe. Know that in 6 months we'll look back at this, or a year or 2 years we'll look back at this and go, damn, how did I make it through it? But I did.
Yeah.
And I'm going to be honest, Asher, and this is, without people, without faith, and this is just for me,
mm-hmm.
without giving it to God, I would have lost my mind. And I have a long way to go spiritually and with my religion and different things. But for me, if I hadn't have hit my knees and prayed, I don't think that I would have made it. I would have been able to sit here and say that we've continued to make these steps. There's just a point where you put so much on you as a human being that you just can't take it anymore. Yeah. And I feel like for me, now this is just for me, that if it hadn't been to finally say, I'm going to let God handle this, trust in my religion, it would have just been too much to bear. And that's just for me.
Right. So I mean, for you, what did that look like when you were trying to, like, what had to change from you trying to do it all yourself to be like, I've got to put it on God, or let God kind of come in here and take control?
So going back to early 2000, like I said, we had a tremendous big sale, and it got shot out. It got shot out. That, I know people deal in a lot bigger deals, but to a startup, that's a big deal. That's, $500,000 sale is.
Wait, you said 2000 or 2020?
Yeah, 2020.
Okay, 2020.
So
gotcha.
February 2020. Sorry. That was kind of like just a gut punch, and then you continue to see what happened. The shutdowns, people pushing work back. We're trying to, we just ordered 20,000 units. 20,000 units of these products. We have that bill. You have to pay for that. We're trying to make sales, and everybody's like, if COVID hasn't hit, we would be buying. If COVID hasn't hit, we would be buying. You've got this special safety product. It's awesome. It's awesome. And so, you take 6 months of that, and, everybody around's going, well, what, we need sales. We need sales. We need sales. And you're the sales guy, It just it puts so much on that it was almost like, every day I would come in and look at my emails and just be like, why is this not happening? And my business partner said, finally kind of said, hey man, look at this. You're making contact with all these people that you would never contact. They would never respond to you if it wasn't for this. There's something here. It's not all bad.
Mm-hmm.
And so, realistically, having, like I said, the people around you to kind of calm you down, was a big part of it. But still, it was just a burden on me, because I felt like this is my company. I have these people believing in me. I have them believing in the story, what we went through, why these products are important. And I just put a lot of pressure on myself, just a lot of pressure, just like anybody else, you put pressure on yourself.
Right.
And it was just to the point that, I can't remember if it was a Facebook post or, it was something, something crazy like that. That was like, if it wasn't for giving my problems to God, it would just stack up and you wouldn't be able to function.
Mm-hmm.
And so now I feel like I come to work, I come positive, I do all that I can. I give it my best effort, no matter what that is. If it's 2 hours or 10 hours, I give it all I got. And when I start getting burnt out, I just shut it off. And I go enjoy baseball, football with my kids, outdoors, and I'll, say that prayer. And it's just, your faith, that it'll eventually happen, and it will. That's the hardest thing as a human being to me, is that trusting that it's going to happen.
Yeah.
It might not happen in our time. I want it to happen 30 minutes ago. I want to look at all, at my emails and see these orders, but it might be 2 years. It might be 3 years. It might be 6 months. But I feel like that when I've been at my lowest points, thinking this is not happening, this is not good, something will kick off, and,
Right.
and something new will sprout out, and we go in all kinds of different directions. And that's just, my simple story of, I felt like that once I finally let go of me trying to control the universe, and just it'll happen. It'll happen. That's when I finally got peace of mind, and just let the company be in the in the Lord's hands. And that's basically where I'm at. I give it my best effort, but at the end of the day, it's going to happen when it'll happen.
Right. That's a great point. I guess just going from, you're both then and now, you're still working hard, but you're not carrying on an expectation that if anything's going to happen, it's going to be by you. It's going to be your creation, your this, your that. It's like you're going to put in all the effort that you can put in, but you recognize the fact that you're not in control of every single interaction, every single decision that gets made, but
absolutely
things will shake out.
You go back and think about it. I wasn't responsible for COVID. I wasn't responsible for those sales falling through. I wasn't responsible for work being pushed back. I wasn't responsible for there's so many things that we can't control. The only thing that we can control is the effort that we put into it, the connections that we make, and the people that we surround ourselves with. I feel like if you do those things, all the other stuff will work itself out.
Right.
Take care of yourself, take care of the people you work with, do the best you can. And, for us, invent the best we can, get our patents ready. And when it does break loose, we'll be ready. That's the mindset. If you're always looking at the negative, what could have been, what should have been, you're screwed from the get-go. Just, say a prayer, look to the future, and do the best that you can, and it'll all fall in place some shape, form, or fashion.
Man, that's awesome. I guess I don't want to keep you too long, because I know you've got you got other things to be doing. But you just reminded me, the like, I know it's not good to look in the past, but sometimes it's helpful to look back at hard times that you overcame and kind of see how you got through those. Because I know for myself, um, especially when we were working, there were times when I got just frustrated and I thought I'd go the headstrong method and just be like, okay, I'm gonna be here super early. I'm gonna go and get all the books. I'm gonna make sure everybody's got this, 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 and this. And it's like it just kept getting worse, worse, and worse. The harder and harder I kept trying to do everything by myself.
Yeah.
But then when I took a step back and focused on making sure that my nutrition was right, my rest was right, I was communicating with the right people, working out after work, and then coming to work and getting direction from where I was supposed to get it, like working through one supervisor and then just doing what was asked of me, but also doing it to the best of my ability and not going home carrying on about, um, oh, I wonder if this person figured it out, but just kind of letting them pick up, like trusting them to go from from where we left things, and then just seeing the changes that happen from basically having engineers working on top of each other, all doing the same project because times were tight. We didn't know whether there's a new contract coming in or if the work was going to continue. And then before you know it, new a new company comes into play. You got more work opening up. Everybody has their individual place to be working. They have their individual project, and it's like, oh, okay, like no more of that stress, no more of the like, is this working out? Am I doing enough? Is my time here worthwhile, or am I just wasting my time? Did I spend all that time, all those years going to school, staying up late, eating, not eating, like all that time that I put in, was it all for naught? But like you said, just taking it taking it upon yourself to stop taking everything upon yourself is a great way to um, really unpack and put it in God's hands.
That's right. And too, Asher, looking back, if we didn't have the struggles, if we didn't have the breakdowns and the hard times, you wouldn't really know what having it good looks like.
Right.
You know what I mean? I mean, if you didn't have the 2020s every once in a while, then what you don't appreciate the good. And so, I had to tell myself that a lot of times. I had to have the people around me tell me that a lot of times. But there's a reason that we go through those trials and tribulations, and being able to look back and learn from your mistakes and learn what you do. I mean, that's just part of life. But I feel like a lot of times that I keep, and I'm really bad about this, I keep looking to the next day. What's the next day? What's the next week? What's the next month? What's the next year hold for me? And you have to do that as a business person. I understand that. But me personally, as a human being, if you don't take each day and enjoy that day, you hear it all the time, you're never promised tomorrow. That's very true. I have a hard time myself not planning, looking forward to the next day or the next week or what's going on. If I had to work on myself and I had to tell people to work on themselves, enjoy the day. If something goes wrong, you got to deal with it, but enjoy the good things in that day. I had a hard time for a long time going home with like you said, my work on my shoulders and being a mad and stressed parent. And that was hard, and I still work on that. I still sometimes bring that stuff home. I mean, that was a couple weeks ago. My wife was like, sent me a message, and it was like this guy, and he had a flat tire on the way to work. His engine started knocking. He gets to work. He smashes his thumb. His buddy takes him home, and he's like, would you like to come in and meet my family? And he walks up to this little tree in the yard, and he starts touching every leaf on the tree. And he touches all the leaves on the tree, and the guy's just standing there like, right, he's lost it. What's wrong with it? So they go in. The guy hadn't said much on the way home. He didn't talk, at work. You could tell he was mad. He goes home. He picks his kids up, kisses them, smiles, laughing, talking to his family. And the guy walks him back outside this truck, and he's like, all right, I got to ask, why did you touch all the leaves on the tree? And he said, when I come home from work, I hang all my problems on that tree from work and from outside. And so I don't take those problems into my family.
Wow.
And so that was big for me, because I would carry my problems home with me, be mad, be upset, can't change anything. The kids didn't do anything.
Right.
Control. They're wanting to see their dad. And so that was a big part for me, to be able to separate work and family. And it took me 36 years to figure that out, and I'm still working on it. But that's a big thing too, is being able to turn the switch on and off. Take this hat, the working boss man, work hard trying to make the money hat, and set it over here, and pick up the let's go play baseball, play with my kids, hat.
Yeah. Man, that's great. I'm gonna have to try that. I'm gonna do that today. I'm not gonna try. I'm gonna apply that today before I talk to the next person I talk to, just to find a tree.
Your neighbors you'll be out there touching leaves on a tree. They'll be like, all right, he's lost it. He's officially lost it.
They'll be like, yeah, I thought there was something that wasn't quite right.
You just pick out what works for you, man. And nobody's the same. We could talk all day, because, like I said, even things that I do on a daily basis, I fail at all the time. I just have to remind myself there's a greater cause. There's other things that could be worse. You could have it a lot worse. You just gotta be grateful for what you got, and enjoy the day-to-day, grind. I mean, I know that's so cliche, but
that's true.
Once you get to a certain point, to where that you feel that you're happy, or you're never really happy, but you look back and it's like, that if I knew what I knew now, it would have been so much different. But I mean, that's what makes life. The best thing about life is life.
Right.
That was quoted from Ice Cube. I mean, that's seriously the best thing in life is life.
Yeah.
Live it up.
So I mean, before I let you go, how would you like for people to find you, other companies, other guests that hear this podcast, listeners, and just all around?
Yeah, I mean, from looking at our stuff, our website's www.ao-es.com, and my email is brad@ao-es.com. And that's been a big thing of mine too. Kind of my plan moving forward is there's so many people like me in the world, or that have these ideas, but you have no idea where to start. What do I do with a patent? What do I do with these drugs? How do I get manufactured? What does all this cost? Is this something, how do you license products, trademarks? I feel like that obviously there's people that do that, but I never knew one. I never met one. I never knew one in the construction industry for sure that was, a boots on the ground guy. And so that's going to be kind of the next chapter of my life, will be put myself out there as not for profit, just a mentor to people that have ideas, that want to try to patent things, want to try to build a business. If I would have had somebody that was in my shoes right now, could have talked to me 2 years ago, it would have helped so much of I've had to figure things out, trial and error, all this stuff. And I feel like that, paying it back is a big part of karma, and, helping other people. And, you do the right things, you do the good stuff, rewards will come back to you. And so that's just kind of my next step, is being able to help others do what we're doing and try to give advice to the best of our abilities.
Yeah, that sounds like a great plan.
Yeah.
And if I can be of any help with that, if you want to just come on, share your thoughts, record another episode or anything like that, just let me know. We'll set it up.
Awesome, man. I going back to you, Asher, you're meeting so many, like a variety of people. I was watching some of your podcast stuff, and I mean, you're really, like, literally getting exposed to some amazing people and some amazing stories. And, to me, the bigger that your network becomes in that, the more opportunities that you're going to have in whatever direction you want to go in. I mean, I'm 100% believer, it's not what you know, it's who you know. And that's, right. I mean, that's 100%. I mean, I knew nothing about running a business. I still don't know anything about running a business. I'm still lost. But I have all these people that know how to run a business that's helping me.
Right.
I'm not afraid to admit it. I'm horrible. But I have a lot of people that's with me that knows what they're doing, and I trust them.
Yeah. That's a great point. Thank you, Matt.
Kudos to you, man, on just being able to branch out to all these people in different areas, and, feelings and emotions, and what works for them. I mean, you're the one sitting there getting it from everybody. I mean, that's the stuff that you're getting, the knowledge that you're getting from all these people in different fields is amazing.
Thank you. Well, I guess on that note, we'll wrap it up. And
yeah.
Hopefully, go ahead.
Anything that I can do to help you or anybody, just let me know. I mean, I'm always available to help best I can.
Okay.